my name is Bhaskar. I like to think of myself usually as an ambassador from the dream. Dreams have always played a very central role in my life, so much so that I ended up getting a PhD in mind-body medicine and focusing on the topic of dreams and health. And I'll say a little bit more about that later. But first, what I'd like to focus on in this presentation is showing the relationship between near-death experiences and dreams. And specifically, there's three kinds of dreams that I think really relate well to near-death experiences. And those are what I call big dreams, visitation dreams, and lucid dreaming. And I'll talk about each of these in one by one. But let's first back up a little bit and just give you my definition of a near-death experience before we go any further. So as I see them, an NDE is a form of out-of-body experience that's triggered by some kind of traumatic event. It might be, a medical emergency, or it might be an accident. And it has a very profound transformative impact on the person experiencing it. And usually they've been determined to be clinically dead for some length of time. So that's my definition of an NDE. And then let's look at some common characteristics of NDEs. Now, not every NDE experience is gonna have these, but they'll have at least some set of these characteristics. Generally, someone gets knocked out of their body, right? Their consciousness leaves their body. They often can see their body while they're having the NDE experience, and they're aware of everything around them. So they have situational awareness of what's happening around them. Now, many also talk about passing through a tunnel or some kind of passageway, another very common characteristic. And then meeting with some kind of higher consciousness or light being when they get to the end of this passageway. They might call that person God or Jesus or some other term, depending on their personal faith. And then usually they feel like this being of light overwhelms them with love. And this is the kind of love that is, they're like drowning in love. And they've never really felt that in their waking life, to be loved by someone to such an extent. And then many people also report about having a life review. So they see the events of their life flash before their eyes. And what's different about this life review is they're not just reliving those events, but they're also experiencing those events from the perspective of the people that they impacted in their life. And then there's a sense of unity consciousness, a feeling of oneness with all beings, as if we're all connected to each other, which we don't always feel when we're in waking life. We feel sort of isolated from each other, little islands of consciousness, and then all of a sudden they feel like they're part of this sea of consciousness instead. And then usually when they come back to their bodies, back to their default reality, they usually say that their life now has purpose, has meaning. Even if they didn't feel that beforehand, they acutely feel that now. And most people claim that they've lost their fear of death. They now have an understanding of what lies on the other side, and so they no longer fear death in the way they did before. And overall, it's an unforgettable, magnificent experience that's both profound and life-changing. Now let's see what a big dream is. What do I mean by a big dream? Well, a big dream, like an NDE, is a dream that has a profound and transformative impact on the dreamer. And I'll make a little differentiation here between big dreams and ordinary dreams or little dreams. So ordinary dreams are the ones that we typically have on most nights of the year. And those are basically, day residue dreams. So basically the little happenings of the day show up in our dreams, and our mind is basically sifting through those experiences, trying to decide what to keep and what to toss out. So those are our ordinary dreams. But the big dreams are different. They tell a big story and usually have a big message at the end of that story. So let's look at an example of a big dream from my own life. So once upon a time, I had my partner at the time was having a medical emergency, and I was taking care of them, and I was neglecting my own health in the process. And then one day I woke up with this massive, excruciating toothache. My gum was completely swollen the right side. I had these shooting pains going up the side of my head. Felt like I had, eaten a tub of wasabi or something like that. And it was a Friday, and I took all the pain medications I could get my hands on. That everything wore off by about 2 or 3 in the afternoon. So I started calling around to various dentists to see if I could get some help. And everybody said, "You're out of luck, buddy. It's Friday evening. We're going on a date, or we're out for the weekend. You have to wait till Monday." So I began to ask myself, what am I going to do? Am I going to just sit with this 2.5 days of pain and feel like I'm in some torturous state? So I suddenly thought of something that Eckhart Tolle shared in his book, The Power of Now. I was actually reading that for a class in my master's program at the time. And he said, when confronted with excruciating pain, be it a physical pain or an emotional pain, sit with it. Really embrace it. Instead of trying to push it away, just embrace that pain and see what happens. So I thought, okay, that's all I can do right now. So I set myself in an armchair, and I began to sink into my pain, and it didn't take very long before I just passed out. It was so excruciating, I just passed right out. And when I did, I had this amazing dream experience. I found myself in this void, kind of like outer space, and I was sitting in a chair, and all of a sudden this Dakini came into my field of vision. Now, in the Hindu Buddhist tradition, a Dakini is a celestial dancer with healing powers. And she came and surprised me. She came and sat in my lap and started kissing me, which was great. And with every kiss, she took some of the pain out of my mouth. And when all the pain was gone, I woke up. And I couldn't believe it at first. I was like, I'm pain-free. How could that be? Like, only 30 minutes had passed by, and I was in so much pain before, and now I was completely free of pain. So my first thought was, I'm still dreaming. So I did something we call a reality check to make sure that you're awake. So I closed my nose, I held my nose, see if I could still speak, and I found that, see if I could still breathe, and I found that I was having a hard time breathing. So then I realized I really am awake. Then I ran to the bathroom to see what had happened inside my mouth. And when I looked in my mouth, what I noticed was the gums looked normal. They were no longer swollen. And what had happened was all the pus that was in my gums and hitting on the nerve endings had now drained into a small sac at the base of my chin. And from that sac, it was slowly draining down into my stomach. So there was no more pressure on the nerve endings, and my pain was completely gone. So as a result of that experience, I saved $5,000 of dental bills. And it completely changed my life because I now had a focus for my master's degree. I didn't know what I was going to focus on. And now I decided that I'm going to explore this phenomena of healing in dreams and see what I discover. So in that way, like an NDE, it was a very life-transformative, changing event. So let's look at some characteristics of big dreams. As I said, they're unforgettable. It's kind of like watching a blockbuster movie, very memorable experience. And they provide us with profound insights. My insight was that we can have incredible healings in the dream state. Often there's a message from the beyond. In my case, it was literally orally delivered. And they have a transformative effect on the dreamer. It really changed me, forever, and changed the course of my life. So these are some of the characteristics that enable big dreams to serve as wake-up calls in life, just like NDEs. Now, how do they serve as wake-up calls? Well, for one, both people who have experienced NDEs and big dreams see them as gifts from the divine, and they want to make the most of these gifts. That's something that I hear a lot from people who've had these experiences, because they provide profound insights and give new direction, as I mentioned before. And here are some examples from the NDE world. So a man who was an insect terminator before his NDE, afterwards became a preacher. That's a pretty big change in career there. A woman said, I used to pray occasionally, but after her NDE, she said, now I feel like every minute of my life is a prayer. That's a pretty remarkable shift in consciousness. And what I find most interesting of all is the NDEs reported by atheists, right? These are people who want to have nothing to do with religion or spirituality before their NDE, and afterwards they embrace spirituality in a way they never thought they could in their lives. So I find that pretty amazing. Let's look at another kind of dream that relates to the NDE experience, and that's the visitation dream. So this is a dream where someone, usually a close loved one, has passed on and now comes to you and visits you in a dream. And they usually come for one of three reasons. The first reason being just to give us reassurance that they're fine, everything's okay in the afterlife, we don't have to worry about them. That's usually message number one. The other kind of message they come with is some kind of guidance. And I'll give you an example of that in just a moment. And the third kind, they come in a protective capacity. They're aware that some impending danger is just around the corner in our lives, and they want to warn us about this danger so that we can avoid it and, you know, live a little bit more holistically. So here's an example. This dream is called Mom in Pink Dress, and it's a dream of a woman who dreams about her mother walking towards her wearing a 1950s pink dress, looking very young and vibrant. And she had this dream 3 years after her mom passed away, and this is what she had to say about her dream. This soulful, lucid dream was and is an incredible gift with much to ponder and explore. It was pure joy to see my mom looking so vibrant and to feel her love. So this is a perfect case of a deceased relative coming and reassuring their daughter, everything's fine with me, you don't have to worry about me, go on with your life. I'm there with you. Now here's an example from my own life. I had this dream on February 22nd, 2022, and my father had passed away a week before on Valentine's Day. And in the dream, I find myself in a CVS store, and I'm kind of wandering around the aisles, feeling a little lost. And also my dad shows up, and he just says one thing to me. He says, better to invest in AI. So I went out there and bought a whole bunch of AI stocks. And 6 months later, ChatGPT came out. How many of you are aware of ChatGPT, have used ChatGPT? Just raise your hands. Okay, quite a few have in this room. So for those of you who haven't, it's a natural language search query where you can just ask questions in ordinary English and get a response in ordinary English. And it just took off, and so did those stocks. So I was very thankful to Dad. And it made perfect sense to me that he would come and give me this kind of a dream, because he was always concerned about my financial welfare. So it made sense that this is the kind of tip that he would, give to both reassure me that he's still there looking over me and, provide some guidance that will help me out in my life. So Dad, if you're listening, I could use a few more of those. Let's move on to the lucid dream next. So a lucid dream is where a dreamer is fully conscious in the dream state. They're aware that they are dreaming, just like you and I are aware that we are awake and conscious right now in this moment. And let's look at some characteristics of lucid dreams. So fully conscious, as I just mentioned. And there's this heightened sense of reality, what I call like hyperrealism. This is something that near-death experiences also report. They feel like, the near-death experience is like larger than life, more real than real. It's a similar kind of state in the lucid dream. And many people are able to consciously alter the elements or aspects in their dream. So for example, if I'm in a lucid dream and I would like to change the color of my hair, I could do that, just will it and it would happen. Or if I want to, visit with a friend, I could will them to appear and they would appear and we could have a conversation. So you can do many of the things in lucid dream that you can do in waking consciousness, like play sports. In fact, we just had the Olympics, some of the Olympic athletes use lucid dreams to train. And you can also do things that you can't do in the waking state, like flying or traveling to other dimensions, once again, just like in an NDE experience. Sir Edward Taylor, who was a British philosopher, once said, "Soul land is dreamland, where the souls of the living so often go to visit the souls of the dead." Now, among indigenous peoples, it's been known for a long time that dreaming is sort of this bridge place, this bridge activity between waking and the afterlife. Let's take a look at the phenomenology of dreams and NDEs, look at some of their differences and compare some of their similarities. Let's start with the differences. So most NDEs incorporate some kind of passageway or portal. Less common in dreams. It's not like it doesn't happen in dreams. In dreams, portals will often show up as like a doorway. You'll go through a doorway, end up in another scene or another dimension. Or people pass through mirrors. That's another common portal in dreams. But it's less common, whereas the passing through a tunnel is a very characteristic part of the NDE experience. Then the meeting with the higher being, the light being, that seems to be very, very common in near-death experiences and less common in dreams. Once in a while, you might meet a Dakini like I did, but it's not as common. And then the feeling of intensity. In both these phenomena, people have this hyper-realism sense, but it tends to be stronger, I believe, in the NDE experience because a lot of NDErs claim that that's the most intense, vibrant experience they've ever had in their lives. And then dreams they're a little bit more story-like. The narratives can be more diverse than the NDE narrative. So that's the other major difference between the two. Some common factors. It seems like Newton's laws of physics are momentarily suspended in both these phenomena. And what I mean by that is, first of all, there's no gravity, right? And because there's no gravity, again, people can float and fly as freely as they choose. And time doesn't seem linear anymore. There's no clock time in either the NDE experience or the dreams. You can have a dream, you can be dreaming for 7 minutes and it can feel like 7 days or 7 years. I remember having a dream once where I fell asleep, had a nap in the afternoon, I biked all the way around South America in 20 minutes. And one can also re-experience past memories, past lives, and even see future life events. So those are some of the common things between the two experiences, as well as being able to instantaneously switch locations. So if this were a lucid dream, I could, intend for all of us to be transported to ancient Greece. We could be sitting in an amphitheater over the Ionian Sea, taking in the lovely blue-green waters of the Mediterranean. And the other thing is meaning and messages. So it tends to be meaning and messages conveyed in both these experiences. It tends to be a little bit more direct with the NDE experience. So the being of light or the angel that one encounters tends to, tell you point blank, go back to your earthly life, here's your mission. In dreams, you have to do a little bit of unpacking, figure out what the symbolism and the metaphors stand for, and then you'll usually get the message that's contained within that framework. And one of the interesting phenomena is that quite a few NDE survivors have mentioned that their dream patterns change after their NDE experience. They tend to have more big dreams after they've had an NDE. So let's just take a look and see what some of those are like. People have dreamt of, once again, returning to the godlike consciousness that they met, and having further communications with that light being. They've had dreams where they see Earth's future. They've had dreams where they have visions of heaven. And they have dreams where they once again experience that non-duality, one-mind consciousness where they feel like they're connected to everybody else in the universe. I want to give you an example of one. I'm just going to play this so you can hear one person's experience. Looks like you can't hear this. All right, well, you're not going to hear that. But what's that?
The audio is coming
Oh, looking for the projector. Oh, I see. Okay. All right. I'll just tell you about it. So he's basically back in the presence of the light being angel that he originally saw in his ND experience, and the light being is basically telling him to stay focused on the message of love and compassion and forgiveness when he goes back to his earthly waking state, and spread that message to as many people as you can. So you're hearing it in my words instead of his, but I think you get the gist of it. So hopefully, by this time, you have a sense of the importance of dream work in our lives. So I just want to give you some tips that might help you to further your own dreaming capacity. One thing I get from people a lot is they say, oh, you have these amazing dreams, you're special. And I always tell them, no, there's nothing special about me. What it is it's all about my attitude. And that is, I approach dreams with a state of reverence. I still think of them as messages from the divine, just like our ancients did. And I feel like anyone who adopts that mindset will once again find that their dreams have more meaningful content. Another thing we can do is we call incubation. And this is simply setting an intention before we go to sleep as to what we would like to dream about. Okay, so if you've had an ND experience and you'd like to go back and have a second conversation or a third conversation with the light being that you encountered, then set that intention and you'll go back there. If you want to have it, if you want to see what the afterworld looks like, what heavens or the many heavens look like, you could set that intention, and maybe you'll have a lucid dream where you'll go to those realms and experience them. So it's all about setting intentions before we go to bed with a clear mind and not having too many expectations, and see what happens. And then there's the act of keeping a dream journal, right? A problem that a lot of people confess about is they have a hard time remembering their dreams. There's nothing like writing down your dreams in a dream journal to uptick dream recall. And then there's giving your dreams a title. Now, this might seem, small, a small thing to do, and it is, but it's amazing that when you give your dreams a title, it's another way of honoring the dream, and it helps us to get to the essence of the dream rather easily. So it's almost like a first step in unpacking the dream and extracting meaning from it. And then there's learning to practice lucid dreaming. And that's a whole talk in itself. Can't get into that here. But there are so many resources out there these days for learning how to lucid dream. If you just Google it, learning how to lucid dream, you'll see videos on YouTube, you'll see online tutorials, books, and even entire seminars on how to lucid dream. So just Google that if that's what you're interested in doing. So I'd just like to say in summary, there are 3 kinds of dreams that pertain to NDEs as we've observed in this presentation: the big dreams, the visitation dreams, and the lucid dreams. And as I hope you now realize from seeing some of the examples that I've shared with you, that big dreams and NDEs both serve as wake-up calls, and they can really change the direction of a person's life in a very meaningful, impactful way. And you don't have to wait for an NDE to avail yourselves of the guidance from source. We go to sleep every night. It's like having it's giving us the opportunity to have an NDE-like experience in our lives every night of our life. And that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. And may your dreams, may you have a more active dream life and a more fulfilling one.
So good morning again. I'm Dr. Kimberly Mascaro, and I play many roles and identities in this this version of myself, this lifetime, which is daughter, dog mom, sister, psychotherapist, somatic psychologist, and author of a couple books on these phenomena. So I'll be talking about similar dreams as to what Dr. Banerji was speaking of. And first, I'll just say a little more about big dreams. We know, of course, NDEs can transform people's lives, but dreams too can be powerfully transformative. And Carl Jung noted differences between little or significant or big and significant dreams, as you've heard. And he was introduced to the term big vision from the indigenous people of the Elgon Forest in Africa. They differentiated between ordinary everyday dreams and our big dreams. So Jung did so many writings, and he did talk about how big dreams are remembered for a lifetime in a lot of his works. So these nocturnal dreams leave the dreamer with profound impacts in their everyday life. So today we'll look at 3 types, and I'll be sharing with you some dreams from my own journal. So big dreams in my life have often been visitation dreams, dreams related to health, and also lucid dreams. And as you've heard from the previous presentation, that we are contacted by a visitor in visitation dreams. It's often a deceased loved one and often someone we know. But my own visitation dreams have included acquaintances as well, family members, singularly or in large groups, and even strangers. There can also be a precognitive or predictive element in some visitation dreams. And so I'll share a few with you right now from my own life and then just touch on one. So the first one, the dream title I gave it was Goodbye Chief, because at the time I lived in a townhouse complex and there was an elder who really was a neighbor, but also caretaker of the community and the place. And the neighbors referred to him as Chief when I moved in. And so in this visitation dream, it's very, very vivid. I am in my bedroom. I open the window and prop myself on the windowsill, which could not have been done in this physical waking state. It would have been too painful, but it was no problem for my dream body. And I'm sitting there looking out and things are really colorful. It's like the grass is just greener. This is how vivid it was. And then suddenly Chief starts walking up, but this time it's different. He didn't have any, he had a surgery on his face earlier. There was no sign of it. He also didn't have his cane anymore, and he was walking towards me almost in a floating-like way. And we telepathically, as you know we do in dreams, exchanged pleasantries, greetings, and he told me how everything was okay. Everything is fine. He's going on about his life and just looking so, so great. And I wake up. And what came, sat with me through those months was really how, he's doing fine. I had wondered. I didn't know if he was still around. He had been missing for a while. Found out he did, in fact, die. But he assured me he was doing fine. And then in another dream, so that was with an acquaintance, and now this dream is with a stranger. I was never a huge fan of Anthony Bourdain, but I kept dreaming with him a lot after his death. And this dream I titled, quote unquote, "This is what it's like to die." So in this dream, I'm in a rural village speaking Spanish, which I speak other languages in dreams, as I do in waking life. And suddenly I'm aware of a serpent is out and about. We gather some children, bring them into a hut, and there's this red ribbon-like serpent, just almost hovering, very magical. But I'm scared of it. I go into this hut with these children, slam the door shut, but like those dream snakes do, they find their way in. So it goes under the door, bites me on the left heel. I realize this is serious. I run out a couple dwellings down where Anthony Bourdain is, and run into this other dwelling. There is a table with an important large book there. To this day, I still don't know what the book is about. It's frustrating because I wrote something in the book and still don't recall it yet. But I run upstairs after that, find Anthony Bourdain and tell him what happened. We realize the seriousness of this bite. And I start to change in the dream, shifting points of consciousness from feeling alive and awake in the dream to feeling like I have died, but it's really hard to explain, honestly. But having these moments of consciousness while I'm in different states of consciousness, and I realize, oh, I'm dead, but I'm not dead. And I tell him, this is what it's like to die. And my consciousness in the dream just keeps shifting. And then I wake up. So a third visitation dream now, not with strangers or acquaintances, but with living and deceased family members and a large group of them. So this is just a snippet of the dream. It's a bit longer, but what I can share with you is that all of these living and deceased family members are gathered. There's quite a few. It was my dad's side, who's Italian American, and so there's a lot of people there. And my mom exclaims, "We want to reward you." And in the dream, I'm so surprised by this. I verbally acknowledge all they've done for me and my gratitude and that things are fine, but they indicate, no, there's a much bigger reward coming, but I'm not sure what it's for. And after our typical meet and greet, hugs and kisses and all that, I realized that they really are all there for me, but I don't know what the reward is. I don't know what I'm being rewarded for, and I wake up. So as you can see, some visitation dreams can be frustrating as well. They can leave you with some information about life and death and the afterlife, but also with a lot of questions. I'll just touch on this fourth dream here, which has a psychopompic quality, and the psychopomp is a term from Greek mythology, and it's about one who helps souls cross over to the other world. And so in this dream, I'm going through a door, which is clearly a portal because there's a death taking place on one side, and I go through the portal and talk to the spirit of the dying. I offer gratitude to all he's taught me, and he gives me information about how to facilitate the death process. And I go back and forth 3 times and wake up from that. So I still put that in the category of visitation dreams because there was a spirit involved, but the physical body was just on the other side of the door. Hard to categorize some of this phenomena, as I'm sure many of you here have experienced. So the next category, I'll talk about health-related dreams. And you've already heard one with the Dakini. And as you know, health-related dreams can provide all kinds of guidance and direction. We can be warned of something in our body developing or something to come down the pipeline. We can also get post-diagnostic guidance and be given instructions. It's not always symbolic, at least in my dream world. Sometimes my dreams are very, very direct and straightforward, and I ask them to be that way. You know, when I do dream incubation practices, I say, please don't make me have to guess too much, if you would. If you can be direct with me, I appreciate it. So there's precognitive and predictive aspects in health-related dreams as well. And I'll share 2 of mine with you. So years and years ago, before I did a Dutch test with a naturopathic doctor to confirm a flat cortisol line or adrenal fatigue and some chronic fatigue issues, I was operating private practices in 3 different counties. So it was pretty stressful, and I was doing a lot of driving. And I titled this dream at the time, Check Engine Light. And so in this dream, I'm in my vehicle and I'm driving, and I safely arrive at my destination, but the vehicle's overheated, and I see the little red light just lit up, reminding me that the vehicle was operating too high. And in the dream, I'm worrying about how I will get back and make it back to my return trip. And I have the realization in this dream as I'm sitting in the car that I need to drive slower, not use the air conditioning system so much, and it's necessary to look out for how much I drive and in the manner in which I'm driving, and this can prevent overheating. And with that knowledge, I wake up. So like I said, I took dream action, as I think is wise after all dreams, to shut down some private practice locations. And then, unfortunately, time goes on. I learn also of a breast cancer diagnosis, and I had about a year of dreams leading up to that diagnosis, and then several years of dreams after the diagnosis. So there's so many. We can talk about this for years, but one I titled By the Juicer. So in this dream, I am social dancing, which is something I love to do, and showing a group of other dancers how to use a cold pressed or slow pressed juicer. I show them the best combination of vegetables to use with the knowledge that they must be consumed for health reasons. And then I wake up. So to honor that dream, I went and bought one of these juicers. And unfortunately, the cold or slow pressed juicers are twice as much as the other juicers. So that part was no fun. But as a dream researcher, I do what the dream says. So that's what I did. And then a third category I'll touch on is lucid dreams. And you've already heard that definition. I want to add, though, that lucidity occurs on a spectrum. So Dr. Ed Kellogg, amazing lucid dreamer and dream researcher, he speaks about this lucidity continuum spanning from pre-lucidity to a super lucid state. So an example of maybe one end of the spectrum, like pre-lucidity or maybe a lower level of lucidity, could be that you have a lucid dream, and in the lucid dream you see your deceased grandma or grandpa, and you realize, hey, they died 15 years ago. But you don't do anything about it. You just go on as if it's an ordinary dream with, you have this knowledge, you have some lucidity there, but you just continue the dream. Where it could be all the way to another end of the spectrum where you may be doing some pretty extraordinary, wild things with some control even. So some lucid dreamers find themselves in other dimensions or spontaneously ask to be taken to those places. You can ask to be taken to the sun or to a different part of the world or the moon. A lot of lucid dreamers too make pre-sleep dream plans to explore other dimensions or spaces beyond the physical realm, even past, present, and future, or meet with other lucid dreamers in the dreamscape itself. And I'll talk a little more about that in a few more slides. So I'll share one lucid dream related to healing. And I think this is important to point out that while we're categorizing dreams here, labeling them, all of these can blend into one dream. We're just separating them so we have a point of reference in which we speak, but they all can blend together. So in this dream, it was post-cancer diagnosis, and I had many dreams where I incubated or at least planned that I would get an answer or some information about how to heal. And in this one, I titled it Dreaming Mind because I just called out to the dream space. So with my plan in mind, I am in my living room in a dream, and I hear something outside. Feel a little concerned looking out the window. I'm like, are there invaders out there? Or, who's out there? Somebody's out there. And you know how that can feel when you don't know who's outside in the dark. So there's a little bit of concern there. And then it prompts lucidity. So I, at that point, become lucid and then recall my waking state plan, which was to ask these questions. How do I heal this condition? What is the root cause of this condition? So, and it's reflected in the painting I did. I'll tell you a little more about that. So I call out, Dreaming Mind, how do I heal this condition? And I decide to, or I don't know really if I decide, but suddenly I'm in a lotus position, hovering, meditating. Have any of you meditated in a lucid dream before? Anyone? Okay. I don't know if you have a similar thing, but it's very interesting. When I do that, I go into the black void. So here I am now hovering in meditation in the black void. And for me, some people have told me it's scary for them. For me, I find the black void to be a place of oneness, stillness, vast, deep peace. And so I see a reflection. It could be me, but it's doing, a mirror reflection, but dusted in white. I'm still not sure what that part meant, but that was the message I got for healing. So then I came back into the dream living room where I was where the lucidity was prompted. And then, amazingly, this doesn't really hardly ever happen. I was still lucid. So I go, oh, okay, ask another question. And very rare for me to have that long of opportunity with all these questions. So then I said, what dreaming mind, that's how I addressed the space that day. In many ways we can address it, but dreaming mind, what is the root cause of this condition? And at that moment, coming from about right here was a very large face or head of reptilian, alien kind of thing, not a cartoon alien, more reptilian. That alert, kind of jolted me. And if any of you here are lucid dreamers, if you get real excited, you're going to find yourself right back in bed. And that's what happened, darn it, back in bed. At the moment, though, my hands, and that's where this painting was not complete at the time. After I painted lightning coming out of the palms, because that's where the energy was when I was coming back, waking up in my bed. And I just placed those hands on my chest and just proclaimed, heal now, as I'm waking up. So, but I didn't take a picture of the final painting. But what I do want to point out is interesting is, while I tried to paint, you see the lotus figure sitting with that black void behind it, that stripe. What I've done, I went to art school a long time ago, and art students, we all do all kinds of silly things. So I painted this area in white with a rollie. You can do that if you're a painter. And walked up to, this was a wooden panel mounted on the wall, pressed my body in it. I mean, I'm just being a creative artist here, right? But then pulled back, and do you see something? Does that look like a face at all? That really creeped me out. That was not the intention. And so I thought, well, no need to paint the second part or the second answer to the root cause question. There's that face. And I just left it like that, except like I said, later I added gold. So whether it's, health related, any type of big dream, lucid dream, visitation dream, NDE of any manner, this can really drive creativity as well. So it's part of my process after I write or record the dream in audio and transcribe it. Sometimes I go straight to pen and paper though, and title it that, giving it a sketch or taking it to some kind of art form, whatever you're comfortable doing, collage, sculpture, whatever it is, can really help us to integrate, understand, and be with these big dreams or these NDE types experiences even more. So I'll just say a little bit about differences and commonalities, but we have gone over that. Of course, dreams, you have to be asleep. You can incubate them. Lucid dreams can be direct, planned for, can be recalled often, yet my understanding is that for NDEs, you're lucky if you have one or two even in a lifetime to have that kind of memory and profound impact. Commonalities, though, there's quite a few commonalities between big dreams and NDEs. And those are, sometimes there's a varying or unpredictable degree of recall or integration, but given what is remembered, it's often unforgettable, especially with the presence of the deceased. For me, I seem to remember those like it was yesterday. And these experiences can serve as wake-up calls, often with leading to changes in our lives. And we have the potential from these experiences for prompting a long-term transformation. So for me, my health-related dreams, I mean, there were so many for so many years that they resulted in me choosing more unconventional treatment approaches. I don't think, I might not have had the guidance or courage to do that without years of dreams guiding me through health crises. And also some commonalities that these experiences can leave us asking really big questions about our existence, the nature of reality, and such. So, for example, lucid dreamers can engage in a phenomena we call in the dream community called shared dreaming, where they locate each other in the dream space. So they'll make a plan, together, like tonight we're going to lucid dream, go find each other in the dreamscape and take action or an activity. And one of my favorites is when they do things like that to heal the earth, to do something for, Mother Earth and just bring love to the planet. I think those are some of the coolest actions that lucid dreamers do when they engage in shared dreaming activity. But for now, to hopefully allow us for a little bit of Q&A, I'd love to keep this discussion going. I will be at the entire IANDS conference. So if I'm not inside and you would love to talk about these phenomena with me, I'm very open to it. I might also be at the pool. And you can find me online. My website is consciouschimera.com. So if you go to consciouschimera.com, you'll see articles too on related consciousness phenomena. So thank you for your attention, for your time, and until later. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi there. Is this on?
It's only
Hi there. Oh, there we go. Thank you so much. Thank you to both of you for your wonderful presentations. I really enjoyed it. I dream, sometimes I remember, sometimes I don't. But one time I had a very unique dream that I've never had before or since. I have a couple of rescue dogs. They're 50 pounds of love, and they're a big part of my life. And I have acreage so that we wander around a lot. We nap together. We read on the couch together. I do most of the reading, though. And one time I had a dream that I was watching one of my dogs nap, which I do sometimes because they're just little angels when they're napping. They're not chewing anything. But the difference was I was dreaming that I was dreaming about my dog napping. And there was like two of me or something. I'm not really sure, but I was asleep. It happened overnight, not when I was napping. And in my dream, I was dreaming, consciously aware that I was dreaming of my dog. So it was like a dream within a dream. Have you ever heard of that or had an experience like that?
Yeah, we call that a nested dream.
Nested.
Yes.
How interesting.
Yeah, they are unusual phenomena, and I remember having a nested dream once where I was nested 8 times.
Oh, wow.
So it's a dream within a dream within a dream within a dream, And often, I personally think we get those to help us to remember the dreams when we wake up. It's like a reinforcement that, oh, this is really important. Pay attention.
Yeah.
I've only been nested a couple times.
It was confusing enough for me to be nested once, let alone 8 times. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hello. I do dream incubation like a lot, but I find that it works for myself very rarely, but it works when I do it for others almost every time. I'm wondering if you have heard of that.
I didn't hear. Could you say what it was called again?
Dream incubation.
Oh, yes. Dream incubation.
Like I was saying that it works when I do it on behalf of others, but not that much when I do it for myself.
Oh,
and I'm wondering if you ever heard of that.
No, I haven't heard of that. Actually, that is very interesting. Wondering why that would be the case.
I don't know. Yeah.
that gets me scratching my head too.
I wonder, do you value others more than yourself is what would come to me.
Maybe, but
that kind of experience.
But sometimes it works for myself, but almost always for others. Maybe that's it. Maybe I do value others more, but I don't consciously think so.
You may want to play with that a bit,
Okay.
and see if that changes your experience or not.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I'm glad you used dream incubation practices, though. They're really powerful. For
Yeah,
me
it
as
just
well.
happened by accident. Like some friend of mine said, have a dream about this. And then it worked. And I was like, oh, let's do it again. And then we just could do it like over and over and over with that particular person at first. But then I said, well, maybe I can do it for other people. And then it worked. And then for myself, it's like 10%, 15% of the time.
It reminds me a little bit of hands-on healing. You know, I do hands-on healing, and it works a lot easier when working with somebody else than on myself.
Right,
you know.
right. That comes up like with healing too. Like people say, well, I can't really heal myself, and I can heal others, or I can't heal a family member, but I can work on strangers. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If you want to shut it down, that's fine, but I want to safely eject my thumb drive. Okay.
Hi.
We only have a couple more minutes, so go ahead and get your question quickly.
Yeah, thank you both for your presentations. This question is for Kimberly.
Can't hear you.
Can you turn the mic on for the
Oh,
speaker?
okay.
Oh, there you go.
Okay. The question for Kimberly, did you find out what was the reason behind the breast cancer diagnosis or the
Oh,
illness?
thank you. I was running through it so quickly. So, yeah, I was really running through that piece quickly. Thank you. I was told later by one physician that they suspected virus to be a root cause. Maybe a year or so later, another one said the same thing, a different doctor. And I learned that Epstein-Barr and cancer are like this.
Oh, wow.
A little scary because everyone's had Epstein-Barr, it seems. And yeah, so thank you for that. I realized I was kind of going quickly.
Okay. Yeah, no, I
for-
was afraid
for
it was too
time.
personal of a question, but thank you for
No,
answering.
that's fine. I actually meant to talk about that. Thank you.
Hello, a quick question. I'm just wondering, when I go into what I call an out-of-body experience, I drop, I'm half asleep, I drop and then I feel this whole leaving my body and I go into quite a dramatic experience. And I'm wondering if you have heard about that, and is it that a lucid dream? Is that a big dream? What is it?
Well, can I say something? So I do distinguish between out of bodies and lucid dreams. Others say they're similar or the same. That's to be always debated. But yes, in my out of body experiences, which I did not talk about today, yes, sometimes I will project forward out of my body. Sometimes I'll roll off the bed and hope I don't hit the ground. If I don't, I know I'm dreaming. And sometimes I'll fall down through the bed and then I go about my plans. But yes, that we can get out of the body in all sorts of ways, or sometimes you don't even feel it, right? You're in another escape.
Interesting, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Can you point us to any resources if we are interested in experiencing lucid dreams and we haven't, like some best practices, or maybe they're on your website, or books or YouTube videos to listen to?
Would you want to talk about it?
I would say
After?
contact us afterwards.
Yeah.
We have plenty of resources. And
I can
we
give you
think we
tons.
give you
Thank you.
tons.
Sure, yeah. Maybe if you can hang out for 10 minutes too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
This might be the last question.
Well, we just have
Going
to.
on to the next
Okay.
event.
Okay.
Sorry, I don't like speaking, but I wanted to ask a question. I'm an experiencer, a child experiencer, and a big dreamer. And I wanted to know what you have learned about the dream giver. Because where I'm from, it's the Iroquois Nation, and the people there, they're a dream culture, and they talk about the dream giver. And one thing that didn't come up in the talks, and I'm curious about, is when the dream giver gives us dreams as antagonists, antagonistic dreams. And those can be difficult dreams. But they've caused me to relate to the dream giver and try to wear the dream like a fragrance in the day. And so I just wanted to open that up and ask, what have you learned about the dream giver?
It reminds me of Edward Durand when he speaks about the black dream world. Is it when you say the dream giver, are you referring to where dreams originate?
Yeah, for me, the dream giver is the being that designs the dreams for you or with you.
Yeah, I call it the dream maker, and it's that consciousness behind the dream. It's like the well from which all dreams arise, in a sense, you know. but I'm not sure what you're asking for, though.
I guess for me, the dream giver is complex.
Mhm.
Yeah, and these antagonistic dreams can sometimes, like in one short dream, my dream was I was a server and at a restaurant, and my parents came in, and my parents kind of overran me, and they wanted to choose their own table, and I was losing control of the dining experience of being a server. And so when I awoke, I was like, well, I don't want to do that. I don't want to lose control. Like so immediately the dream like activated. It was antagonistic, but it wanted to awaken something in me. And so I learned something about the dream giver that day. Oh, the dream giver will sometimes like light a fire under your ass.
Yeah. The Reverend Jeremy Taylor, who is an amazing dreamer, used to always say that all dreams, even the really harsh ones, come in the service of health and wholeness.
We're online as well. Gentlemen, I'd like you to maybe come and ask your question privately at the end. But we'd like to go ahead and thank Dr. Banerji and Dr. Mascaro for